And welcome to Immigration
Hello?
Live on Facebook. Monica, how you doing?
Well, the same as everybody else, I can imagine, Mark.
Well,
What about
there
you?
you go. There you go. We are locked in. We're locked down. Locked in. I don't know what it is.
Locked in and lockdown.
Well, there you go. It's quite a time for all of us, and we're all broadcasting from our respective abodes here. So, thanks to the miracle of modern technology, we're able to do all this. So, welcome to everyone. We're trying a new thing here. We're broadcasting this live on Facebook to the Migration Pro forum or group, and we'd like to welcome everyone there. If you missed this is being recorded, and the recording should be available thereafter. So, please bear with us if we have some technical issues. It's the first time we're doing a live thing, but we've worked it out. So if you have any questions, please type them in the comments box below. Dr. Rachel, who will be with us in a moment here, is happy to answer your questions. We have our faithful helpers here today, Sergio Stagliorio and Amy Jung. They are both employed solicitors with Northam Lawyers, among other things, but they are helping. So if you have any questions or concerns or can't see things or hear things, you might drop them a message. They're both on and helping us out, and they can get messages to us through the show. So, Monica, what's up? Everything good?
Cabin fever. I'm sure I'm the same as everyone else. Children at home, dogs need to be walked. And yeah, I'm going bonkers, absolutely bonkers. And then managing the unknown. And I think that's why it's going to be fantastic to have Dr. Rachel in here, because one of the things when you're on your own or going through something like this, a crisis, which I think it is, you're alone with your thoughts. And, we've got hopefully not with everyone, but you're thinking, what if this is it? Or what am I going to do? How am I going to find money? How am I going to feed the kids? So it's, and it's when you're alone and by yourself that you have these thoughts, which can be very unhealthy. So That is why I suppose we've decided to seek the counsel, and we're not talking about legal counsel here. This time we're talking about Dr. Rachel, who we'll have here. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, let me give her a quick introduction. And you can also, on the Facebook forum there, we've uploaded a brochure from her practice called North Brisbane Psychologists, and would encourage you to download that and have a look. Let's bring her on here. Hold on a sec. Hopefully this all works. And she pops right up. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Boom. There you are. Hi, Dr. Rachel. How are you?
Hi. Good. Thanks, Mark. Hi, Monica.
Well, welcome to the show. We'll give you a little introduction here. Dr. Rachel Hannam, she's going to speak about corona anxiety for independent business owners, playing the long game, including topics such as how much are you holding, recognizing signs and symptoms of anxiety and stress, hypervigilance and burnout, getting the right mindset, choosing healthy coping mechanisms, and acceptance and change. Rachel is the clinical director at North Brisbane Psychologists, which she co-founded in 2012. She has a team of 9 psychologists who specialize in a range of therapies and areas. She's been a registered psychologist since 2002. She has consulted to organizations, lawyers, doctors, nurses, teachers, pilots, managers, executives. I think that covers about everybody. And just about everybody. So please welcome to the show, Dr. Rachel Hannam. Okay.
Welcome, Dr. Rachel.
So we just before the show, we tried to figure out what to call you. Is it Rachel or Dr. Hannam? And we settled on Dr. Rachel, like Dr. Phil. May you have some income like Dr. Phil one day. May we all. So maybe this is the start of a broadcast career for you. I don't know. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Rachel now. Again, if you have any questions, pop them in the comments thing. She's going to speak for a while, and then we'll take your questions. And away we go. Dr. Rachel, the show is yours.
Oh, thank you, Mark. It might be a good time to add that I already do have a small side gig in broadcasting. I have a podcast that I do on ABC Radio called Help Me, I'm a Comedian, where I do a bit of therapy with comedians. And that's you can find that by Googling Help Me, I'm a Comedian, ABC Radio. That's quite fun. But yeah, quite a small side project. Look, I wanted to start by saying to everybody who's listening that I am also a business owner. I'm the owner and director of my own practice. So I have admin people, I have 8 other practitioners. So I'm in this with you. We are all in this together. I am really feeling what most of you are feeling, I'm sure, which is the visceral as well as cognitive impacts of uncertainty, anxiety, stress, perhaps irritation and agitation that comes out of that. So I want to start by making myself very human and admitting that I am in this with you. That this is, as Monica said, this is all of us. I was on the phone earlier this morning to a friend. He said, "How are you?" I said, okay. Actually, he laughed at me because I couldn't quite find the words. And he said, that's how we're all feeling right now. So I've been asked to write a couple of blog posts since the pandemic started. And one of the blog posts I was asked to write was about why is it so hard to concentrate? So I wrote an article called "Why Am I Having Trouble Concentrating During this time?" And a lot of people had been telling me this, and my web designer who asked me to write the article. And I think that it's good to name psychological and emotional experiences. So there is a name for what a lot of us are feeling, and it's hypervigilance. And hypervigilance is a feature of many kinds of psychological disorders like anxiety disorder, panic disorder, OCD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So my heart really goes out right now to anybody who's already living with some form of anxiety or anxiety disorder going through this now. Although I did have a client say to me the other day, now everybody knows how I feel all the time. So it's quite validating for him. So hypervigilance, let's talk about what that does in the brain. It puts you on high alert. It makes you scan the environment for any potential threats. Now, for some people I've talked to, they're noticing if people are coughing or hoarding too much toilet paper or any signs of contamination. But what I think is actually happening for a lot of us is the sort of obsessionality with our news feed, with reading news articles, scanning social media. Even if we don't want to be, we find that it's hard to stop sometimes. So this is sort of ancient survival mechanisms manifesting in a modern age. We're all feeling a bit out of control, very uncertain, and this hypervigilance is a manifestation of that. This stress response this hypervigilance is associated with increased adrenaline and cortisol in our brain and body. And so the fight-flight centers of our brain become highly responsive to any stimuli that might seem threatening or reminiscent of trauma or danger in any way. And so we experience the increased heart rate and the muscle tension, the heightened blood pressure and the shallow breathing. So this is having quite a visceral effect on a lot of people. Some people have said to me they're not aware of too many anxious thoughts. They're not all that worried. Their cognition hasn't changed, but they're feeling it in their body. So if that's how it is for you right now, that you're holding it in your body, know that you're not alone. The body keeps the score, I always say. And when there's a lot going on, we do pick up on it. Emotions are contagious. This hypervigilance can lead to sort of erratic emotional and behavioral patterns. So we might find we're behaving a little bit out of character. Some people are telling me they're losing their temper more quickly. They're getting a bit more irritable, agitated. Maybe they're drinking more than normal, comfort eating more than normal, having trouble falling asleep, having trouble staying asleep. And we need to watch out for these signs and symptoms of anxiety and stress, because eventually they will lead to burnout and exhaustion. And we really are playing the long game here. We need to be patient with this. This is not going to be all over next week, as we all know. So let's talk about let's talk about finding a good mindset And then let's talk about some healthy coping strategies and mechanisms. Because at this time, there's a lot we can't control. And we can have some control over our thinking. So I want to talk about that. But we have far more control over our behavior than we do over our thoughts and feelings. Let me say that again, because that's such an important point. We have far more control over our behavior than we do over our thoughts and feelings. A lot of our thoughts are automatic thoughts, or what psychologists call intrusive thoughts. And our emotions follow suit, and emotions and thoughts are like chicken and egg. Our feelings turn into thinking. Our thinking affects how we feel. We have far more control over what we do. So I want to mainly focus on what you can do to live authentically and be still engaged in your lives while this is all going on. But a quick piece about our mindset. One of the bodies of work I draw heavily on in my practice of psychology is positive psychology. Some of you may have heard of it. Martin Seligman is the main person behind positive psychology, which for the past 20 years has been a study of the positive aspects of the human experience, things that make life worth living, a focus on individual and societal well-being. So I really appreciate this area of psychology. Part of positive psychology is looking at our character strengths. So our natural abilities and our values, and whether or not we're fully enacting them, bringing them into our lives. And often people I meet with depression, part of what's going on for them is they have natural strengths and really strong points in their character, and they're not using them. They're not making the most of them in their lives. Perhaps their job doesn't bring out their natural strengths, or perhaps they're just not aware of what their strengths are. So I'd like to post in the comments below a link, if Mark's okay with it, to complete the VIA Character Strength Survey, Values in Action Character Strength Survey. It's free. And I just want to say a bit about using character strengths, the things you're naturally good at, your natural personality highlights to cope at this time. So these character strengths include things like social intelligence, kindness, perseverance, creativity, curiosity, love of learning, and more. So you might resonate with one or more of those that I just listed there. And if we can apply some of these intentionally and deliberately, because if there was ever a time to be living intentionally and with focus and with deliberation, it would be now. If we let our anxiety hijack us, we will behave in ways that do not line up with our values and do not make the most of our personality strengths. So let me take this notion of bringing your strengths to the fore as a way of resetting your thinking and your mindset. Let this opportunity, in other words, bring out the best in you. That's the mindset shift I want you to have. Allow this crisis to be an opportunity. If you've ever seen that Simpsons episode where Lisa tells Homer Simpson that the character in Chinese for crisis is the same as for opportunity, and Homer Simpson says, "Crisis-tunity." I never forgot that because it's actually true. So crises are also opportunities. Business opportunities, potentially, for some. But for everyone, an opportunity to let the best parts of your character come to the forefront. So perhaps you're someone who's very kind or very socially intelligent. But how are you going to use that to stay connected with people you care about and help them manage stress and conflict? How are you going to maintain healthy relationships at this time? We can also use strengths like humility and forgiveness to, which are on that survey that I mentioned, to stop ourselves regressing to our fight-flight instincts, giving into that adrenaline and cortisol. But so much of using this as an opportunity involves, to my thinking, learning, creativity, and curiosity. If you can bring your And you're all professionals, so you've all got a love of learning, I'm sure. If you can bring that love of learning, that creativity, that curiosity to help you find new ways to do things. How do I connect with my clients differently? How do I communicate with them differently? And personally, how do I find different ways to exercise now that I can't go to the gym? How do I find different ways to have social contact now that I can't go out for a meal? How do I use my brain instead of just being stuck on social media or YouTube all day long? So that leads me to, that's you taking control of what you've got control of. And that's so important. I can't say enough right now about focusing on what's in your control and catching yourself when you focus on things that are outside of your control, which we do all the time. As soon as we think about politics, other people's behavior, the weather, gosh, I could list 100 things that are out of our control. But, we still have to deal with the real world problems we're facing as well as our inner world. So what can you do? So first of all, think of this as a metaphor for a ship in a storm. That's how a lot of us feel right now, like a ship at sea. And when the storm blows up, the boat drops their anchor. If they can get back to the harbour, they go back to the harbour and they drop their anchor, because dropping anchor is one way to stay in place. Dropping the anchor doesn't make the storm go away, but it holds it steady until the storm passes in its own time. And I'm not just talking about the storm out there, the pandemic, but the storm inside yourself when it comes up. Acknowledge that. Acknowledge the thoughts and feelings that are being triggered for you in this pandemic. Come back into your body. Come back into your breathing. It's so important that you don't ignore your body, your feelings, your well-being right now. It's very tempting to ignore it. I understand why people deny themselves and focus on their staff, their business, their kids. But the more you ignore something, the worse it gets. We must face ourselves and the feelings that are inside of us. Push your feet into the floor. I like this one. Feel your feet on the ground. This is one way to get anchored or grounded. Feel your feet. It's as simple as that. Feel the strong muscles in your legs. Breathe and focus your attention down into your body. At a time like this, it's easy just to live up here in your head and be completely in your problem-solving intellect and ignore your body and just put more food and alcohol into it. Like, I get it. But that's not going to help you. That's going to bring on burnout and exhaustion. So come back into your body in whatever ways work for you. I just want to say a few more things before I open this up to questions. In terms of what you can do that is within your control. And I'd be happy to share my experiences as a business owner as well. But I'm aware that I'm speaking at the moment about personal well-being and self-care, because I think without that, you can't really do anything else. The old metaphor of when you're on an aeroplane and they say, if oxygen masks drop from the ceiling, make sure you fit your mask before you fit anyone else's mask. Well, that's the best metaphor for self-care. If you are flailing for air, gasping on the floor, not coping, you can't help anybody else. So this is really the time for contrary action, which means in psychology doing the opposite of what you feel like doing. You probably don't feel like exercising. You probably don't feel like meditating. You probably don't feel like meal planning or healthy eating. You probably feel like eating too many potato chips, which I did last night because, I'm human. But doing the stuff that helps you sleep better, helps you focus, helps you feel better is more important now than ever. Okay. What else did I want to say about looking after yourself? Looking after yourself includes looking after other people too, of course, because we're all interconnected. And hasn't this pandemic shown us more than ever how interconnected we all are? There's some amazing lessons that are going to come out of this for humanity, I think. Getting back to some of our core values and doing the things that truly matter. one of the lessons I think we're going to be getting out of this. So ways to look after yourself, ways to look after others, some kind words, some checking in with other people. Like, it's funny how you can be really struggling, but when you check in on someone else who's really struggling, you have a holiday from your own life. This is what I love about my job. When I listen to other people's struggles, it's like a holiday from my own life, and I get to enact my value of kindness and compassion, which are things I really care about. I'm sure you all do as well, or you wouldn't be in the line of work that you're in. Okay, so I've talked about values. Let me just say a few things, if you haven't already thought of them, and then I'll open it up to questions, that you could be doing. So some practical tips if you're not already doing these. These are antidotes to the not sleeping properly, not eating properly, drinking too much, unhealthy coping mechanisms. Okay, so here's a list of things to do as antidotes. Write them down if any of them resonate. Schedule Zoom catch-up, or whatever platform you want to use. Catch up with friends and colleagues in group chat, settings, video conferences. It's better than nothing. Seeing a face and hearing a voice has a different effect on our brain than just texting. Do more than just texting or messaging friends. Let them hear your voice, see your face, and vice versa. Exercise. We've already touched on this, but I would say exercise, and whatever works for you. Dance around your living room to forget all about the pandemic. My kids love dancing around the living room. We've got all this hypervigilance, this energy in our body. I think we need to use it. Laughter. Laughter is a great release of energy, as are tears. So use this time to get into your emotions when you can, and have a laugh, have a cry, sad movies, funny movies, comedy on YouTube, so that you can have that physiological release. We've evolved laughter and tears for that reason. Some other ideas is get into some new music if you've got time because you're at home more. Declutter, find new books, get better at cooking, sharpen an old hobby or talent that you haven't done for a while. This is also a good time to make amends with somebody in your life who you need to improve your relationship with. You could reach out to them. We're all feeling vulnerable right now. Weirdly, when we're all feeling vulnerable, it can be a good time to reach out and connect in our shared vulnerability. Learn meditation and practice meditation. If there was ever a good time for that, it's now. Practice gratitude. I'll also put a couple of links in the comments below to some exercises that I use with clients. One is called a loving kindness meditation, and one is about gratitude. 3 things, or 3 good things. It's a reflection at the end of each day to help you reflect on what went well and what are you grateful for. So there's some ideas from me. I think I've spoken for long enough. In a bit of a higgledy-piggledy order. But can I open it up to questions now? And I'm happy to discuss whatever is up for you and whatever is on your mind. Is that okay, Mark?
That's fantastic. Dr. Rachel, that was fantastic. I was sort of speechless, and that's pretty rare. But wow, just very profound. Very profound. It's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. We've had some people send in some questions. They didn't want to ask the question publicly on the Facebook forum because privacy or personal reasons, of course. So I've got one for you here. It says, thank you so much, Dr. Rachel, for talking to us on these very important issues. I have been dealing with very stressed out clients lately because of the coronavirus crisis. What can I do in terms of helping them deal with this difficult situation while at the same time not allowing their anxieties to affect me personally?
Great question.
Me too. It's a great question. I think in psychology we call it normalizing. And I think normalizing things for people is the critical first step in a situation like that. We are all in this together. This time that's true. And so making them feel normal by saying, me too, is I mean, a lot of our clients probably look to us as experts, put us up on a bit of a pedestal, and we are just as human as them, right?
Indeed.
And so I would say validate their feelings by saying, look, I get it. Me too. I understand. It's not just you. You're normal. Already that can bring about some relaxation for people, just that bit of validation. I would encourage your clients who are probably doing what human beings do, which is focusing on all these things out of our control, to just come back to their circle of control. If anyone's familiar with Stephen Covey's work, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he talks about the circle of control and the circle of concern. And the big circle of concern, I don't know if you can see my hand, the big circle contains everything that affects us. The little circle in the middle is just the bit that we have control over. So encourage your clients to take a solution-focused mindset of what can I do and what's the very first easiest step that I can take? What can I do right now, the closest in little step that I'm able to take next? Because when we take action, we start to feel like we're back in our agency, back in our ability to control things. Human beings hate feeling out of control. And, you know, it's why when we call people control freaks and we accuse someone of being controlling, I always say to those people saying things like that about others, it's because they feel so out of control, and nobody likes that. So we've got to refocus on just the very next step, I would say, and encourage your clients to do that.
Wonderful. Monica, I think there's one for you to ask on there.
Okay, so thank you, Doctor. I've been feeling quite mellow listening to your voice. I love listening to people like yourselves. It's phenomenal. My question is, you know, I have children, obviously like you, who are quite young. One's a teenager and one's an 8-year-old boy, 2 boys. And it's very normal to feel the anxiety and the agitation with children. And it's totally impossible to hide from them. So should I discuss how I'm feeling with the kids, or how would you approach it? Because the children have an awareness of what's going on, and you don't want to instill fear in them. But also I don't want to pretend that it's fine, because it's something that they will remember when they become adults.
Children are like tuning forks in families, right? They pick up on all of the feelings and emotions, but they have no skills or resources to put that into words usually and make sense of what they're picking up on. So what I often say to parents, and it's such a great question you've asked, is children do need help to be able to put feelings into words. And we do need to walk that fine line between our children as our mini therapists to get a bit of, comfort and validation. Obviously, that's not their job, but we don't want to pretend like everything's great when it's not. So for myself personally, and I say this to people about their children, you've got to let your children know that you are human and that you also have feelings and you have needs just like they do. But you reassure them that it's not their job to worry about you and fix everything, because some children are people pleasers, right? And they want to, maintain their approval ratings with their parents by being really good. And we don't want to kind of create those patterns in our children. They need to be innocent children as well. So I would say talk to them about how it's a stressful time and you've got a lot of uncertainties and pressures on you right now. They don't need to worry about that or fix that, but everybody's feeling it. Again, it's that Me Too thing of we are all feeling this, but we also need to have breaks from this. So manage their expectations. I have been a bit snappier with my own children lately. I'm sure I'm not alone there. And, I always reframe conflict with children as an opportunity to model repair and reconnection. So model humility to your children by saying, I overreacted to that and I'm sorry. You probably felt upset when I raised my voice. Just validating how they're feeling, acknowledging how you're feeling, getting them to help out around the house and do what's expected of them, but also being flexible right now. Some of my clients are trying to get their kids to do a full day of schoolwork at home, and I'm like, good luck to you. I'm not sure that's a good idea right now. Do what you can, but if they're folding, washing, and helping make cakes, and I don't know, vacuuming the floor or whatever's age appropriate, that's okay too right now. So I'd say be flexible, be honest, but set boundaries so you're not taking it out on the kids or turning to them for support when they're too young to give it.
That's a real good point. Can I lead into the next question, if that's all right, Mark? With regards to the pressure, so, and I'm a single parent with 2 children, obviously, and you got other people, and it doesn't matter who's with the children or who's away, there's always the pressure and the stress. What would you recommend for parents who are business owners or employees? It doesn't matter. I call it a toolbox. I always like to know, all right, if I'm not coping with something, what are the resources, the tools that I can access at this time now in order to take the edge off? What would you recommend for toolboxes? And I always use this with my kids too. When they feel overwhelmed, I get them to go, all right, what sort of things can we use that's in your toolbox for distraction or distress tolerance? I wanted you to tell us what you would think would be useful when we get to that point and we say, I'm out or I'm not coping. We all get there, and we need to ground ourselves. So what would you recommend in the process where we've got up to here and we need to just come down? And otherwise we're going to have an anxiety attack or a panic attack.
Good question. And if we're starting to get panic and anxiety, we know how that goes as parents. We end up taking that out on our kids, and they don't deserve that, and they end up feeling ashamed and upset. One of the things, okay, so to answer, there's a few bits to your question. To answer the one about when you are so elevated that you're, ready to blow. One of the things I've learned to do with my kids is let them know when I'm at the edge of my limits.
Yes.
And, because they're not always picking up on that, but so they need to know. So I've said to my kids, I'm at the edges of my limits here, and I'm going to do or say something that I will regret and that you won't enjoy. So you need to go from me. Come back in whatever time, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, because there are so many pressures on us professionally and personally as parents. So I think it's really important that we know where our limits are, that we let our kids know where our limits are, and we make sure there's limits on their behaviors, whether it's screen time or how they're treating you. I am still a big fan, even though I'm a bit of a warm and fuzzy person, of saying to my kids, don't talk to me like that. Don't treat me like that. And of course that comes back to me, Mum, don't talk to me like that. So I'm really aware of the need for clear boundaries with, for ourselves as well as for our kids. The other part of your question, Monica, was about tools, right? Resources.
Yes.
What do you use? What do you mean exactly by tools?
I think you mentioned one of those tools is when you want to feel grounded, going into the body. For example, if I'm sitting here or having a consultation with somebody and I find it very stressful, or, there's a trigger, what is it that I can ground myself without, no matter where I am, on a train, public transport, in my home, what is it that I can access in my body to ground myself and reduce that elevation?
Yeah. Well, my favorite is feel my feet. I don't know why that works for me, but when I become aware of my feet, it's about as far away. It's as far away from my thinking mind as I can actually pay attention to in my physical body. So I quite like the feel my feet one when I'm getting really elevated or not knowing what to say or do. I deepen and slow my breath. I feel my feet. Another one that I'd like to share with people, because I know some people really love this, is what's called square breathing. Let me draw a little picture on a little piece of paper here. Square breathing is where you breathe in for the count of 4 and hold it for the count of 4. Then you breathe out for the count of 4 and pause for the count of 4. And what you want to do, as well as counting, hopefully you can see this, as well as counting 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, and pause, 2, 3, 4, as well as the counting, you can visualize this square, like it's called breathing around the square. And if you do 3 or 4 of those square breaths, and teach this to couples when they're getting very escalated in their arguments, I say, right, stop, put your feet on the floor. I'm going to lead you in a breathing exercise. And we do 4 or 5 of these square breaths. And then I say, how do you feel now? And they always say, I feel more relaxed. Because they are slowing their breathing. They are getting more oxygen into their lungs. The holding at the top of the inhalation gives them a little stretch through their intercostal muscles. And they're refocusing their minds away from the problem onto something that's neutral and ultimately quite relaxing. So square breathing is a great technique for some people.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost you, Mark. We just lost you.
Sorry, there we go. Miracle
You're
of modern
back.
electronics. I'm back. There we go. Had to have one technical glitch, of course. Okay. We have another one here. Let's see. All right. I've got, we've got 2 more. Okay. Here's one. I am the breadwinner in my family and my husband looks after the kids as he is unemployed now. I feel the pressure. We were talking about pressure before, weren't we? My income reduced a lot lately. I know it's not my fault, but I do feel like I'm failing. As you said, it is impossible to avoid those thoughts, but what can I do not to feel that I'm failing?
Great question. Yeah, that's what I call a mental story or a cognitive story. I'm failing. Okay. So one really, really, really important tool here is self-compassion. Self-compassion has a very different voice from the inner critic. It's the inner critic that lives inside of you that's saying, you're failing, you're a failure, you're not good enough, doing enough, you should know how to handle this, you should be better. The alternative to the inner critic is self-compassion, which says, you are doing your best, you are human, you can't possibly know everything, you don't have a crystal ball, you are doing okay, you are all right, you are suffering, right? When we take that lens of compassion, we acknowledge human suffering, that we all struggle. And in that we find shared humanity. So this is not self-pity, because self-pity says, poor me, it's not fair, no one understands, I'm all alone. But self-compassion says, I'm human, I'm fallible, life is hard, I'm challenged, I'm doing my best, and right now I'm suffering, the mental and emotional stress of it all. Being very, very kind to yourself and accepting yourself as you are. Now, it's really easy for me to say those words, but if you're struggling to do that, that's where a really good therapist can help. One of the therapies I do is compassion-focused therapy, which always starts with self-compassion. Because if we're beating up on ourselves, we're going to feel more stress and anxiety. That is not going to help. We're going to take it out on those around us. We're going to be more critical of those around us as well. So the antidote is self-compassion, I would say.
Wow, that's fantastic. Got another one here. What's the best
I'm
way?
going to give myself a hug first. Everyone needs to give each other a beautiful hug, a little hug. We all deserve it.
That's right. That's right. Here comes another one. We've got one more and then actually 2 more, and then we might wrap it up. Here's one. It says, what's the best way to gently remind clients that we as their agents are also human and dealing with our own anxieties while staying professional? They may not remember that we deal with more than one client on a regular basis and might expect some more hand-holding than usual. That's certainly had that one.
A bit like a parent It's true, isn't it? It's a bit like a
Yes.
parent, because you're like a parent to your clients in a way, because the responsibility is mainly in your court to take care of their needs. It's not their job to take care of your needs, right? Other than financially, they have to pay you. And that's the whole point of payment, actually. It just means that they look after you financially by paying you, and then you're there for their needs. But we're still human, right? I'm still human. You are all still human. And it's a reality that we're all feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or anxious. So I think it's very professional and authentic and appropriate to say that. I mean, I'm a big fan of honesty with boundaries, just to say, I get it because I'm feeling it too. I don't think there's anything unprofessional about that. In fact, I don't think it's ideal to pretend like, you're insulated from this. That would seem inauthentic to me. So I would say, when your client bustles through the door and is, really anxious and stressed, you can ask them, let's just slow this down. We're all struggling right now. And I'm here to help you. I'm here to listen. I'll do my best. I'm here for you. And then do your own grounding, your own self-soothing, your own breathing, so that you can be as present for your client as possible.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Beautiful.
We have one more. It's a comment, actually, not a question, but it's fantastic. I thought I would pass it on. It says, "Hi, Monica, Mark, and Dr. Rachel. Amazing session. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say I feel relieved to know what I'm going through is normal. I thought I was being affected much more than others, or that I was overreacting, but listening to you guys made me realize I'm only human just like everyone else. Thanks heaps." Well, it pretty well says it all.
That is the power of normalizing.
Wow, that's something. Well,
Normalizing. That's what we need. We're all feeling exactly the same, and it's totally, totally normal. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. We've got one more. Just popped up. Just a minute.
Oh.
All right.
Good work.
It says, can you share how you as a psychologist avoid depression for yourself? It hasn't occurred to me that our professions can be prone to falling into depression as we hear different experiences of people, until one of my clients opened up about how he fell into depression because of listening to people's depressing experience, I guess other people's. Avoiding specifics here, which I hope you'll understand. How do we prevent ourselves being affected to the point of depression? That's something else, because we all deal with these people all day long.
Yeah. Can I make one point to split it? Oh, sorry. Do you mind? Sorry. Could you tell everyone the difference between anxiety and depression, and then lead into that? And how you can get both, I think, too, if you're able to. Thanks. Sorry, doctor.
That's okay. I mean, just quickly, right? A simple sort of, humans are like any other organism. Our brains and bodies are kind of looking for homeostasis. Hopefully most people know what homeostasis is, right? An equilibrium. And anxiety is where there's too much adrenaline and cortisol. We're sort of up here in anxiety. And depression is where we've dropped down from our normal equilibrium. So everybody's equilibrium might be a bit different. We're all different people. But it's when we've lost that equilibrium in ourselves, that balance. So anxiety up here, depression down here. People can go on the Black Dog Institute website and do something called the Depression Anxiety Stress Scale on the Black Dog website, and you can score it and you get your ratings for depression, anxiety, and stress. And this would be a good time to actually do the Depression Anxiety Stress Scale online. So anxiety, and you can have both, absolutely. And when you've got both, it's a bit like putting the accelerator and the brake on at the same time in the car, which is not good for you.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, well, Dr. Rachel Hannam, thank you so much for being with us today. It's such a pleasure and such a privilege to hear you talk so passionately and about things we can do to help our clients, things we can do to help ourselves. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So in the brochure, which I think you added to the Facebook group, is that
Yep,
right?
that was posted about an hour ago. Yep.
Great. So in that brochure for North Brisbane psychologists, you'll find my mobile number and my email address, and I'm happy to receive texts or emails from anybody who wants to ask me for additional resources or to get in touch about having a coaching or counselling session, which I'm mostly doing over a video call at the moment anyway, as are my colleagues. So email or phone or the northbrisbanepsychologist.com.au website has our contact details on there as well.
Great. Just in case there are people who are watching the video who may not have access to the brochure, could you give out any sort of contact information and spell it right here on the video just now, if you could, so people can get in touch that way too?
Yeah, definitely. So my email is Rachel, Rachel, at northbrisbanepsychologists, plural, .com.au, and my mobile is 0478 789 321.
Fantastic. Dr. Rachel, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me. Yeah.
All right. Take care, and we'll see you all next week on Immigration Live. Bye-bye.
Bye.